Hey everyone, and welcome back to my introduction to sound healing. This is part two, where I dive into the story of how my singing bowls were made. So, I had the pleasure of visiting a factory in Kathmandu Valley in Nepal. So, at the left, you see an image of a view from across the street from the factory. So, there's a lot of rolling hills in Kathmandu. It is a bit far from Mount Everest, but you can see it from the plane, which is incredible. And it actually like peaks up over the clouds, which is crazy. And at the right, this is a picture of the entrance to the property. So, making a singing bowl in Nepal is no joke. It is absolutely part of a ritual, and they take a very long time to make. So, in particular, I went to see full moon singing bowls being made, which are a bit more rare because they actually only make them underneath the light of a full moon. So, as you can see in the picture on the left, this is one of the areas that the bowls were being made, and it was highly ceremonious. So, you can see the yellow and the red flowers and petals that they put out, and all of their tools. So, this is right before the team got started making bowls that night. This is what it looks like. And they have their kiln right there, which is the beige-ish thing covered in yellow and blue. Why did I say blue? Yellow and red dots. So that's the kiln that the bowls actually go into one by one. And it is absolutely a special and incredible and honorable process to be able to witness. The photograph at the right is a similar version on the inside. So some of the bowls get made a little bit more quickly, they get made indoors. They're not necessarily as ceremonious and special as the full moon bowls, but they are still absolutely incredible. Something else really beautiful about these bowls that I witnessed being made that I want to share is that they were actually comprised of 7 different kinds of metal. So most singing bowls are not necessarily made this way anymore. And there's a few reasons for that. One is just because gold and silver, 2 of the metals included, are very expensive to use, and they don't necessarily change the quality of how the bowls sound. And another reason for it is, I think, speed, because making a single one of these full moon bowls, as you will see as I show you some videos and pictures, takes days. So they've found ways to make them a little bit faster. So they'll make 2 or 3 bowls at the same time. But ultimately, when they are truly hand hammered, they're a work of art and a labor of love. The 7 metals, for those of you who are curious, that these traditional full moon bowls include are gold, silver, copper, iron, tin, lead, and actually a bit of mercury. And the reason for all of these is that they represent the 7 planets. One of them actually represents the sun, and another one represents the moon. So that is a little bit of the tradition behind the 7 metal alloy makeup. Let's look at that. Lots going on here. So the video in the middle, they are literally hand hammering these hot molten metal, like straight out of that kiln. In the video on the left, I thought this was incredibly cool to witness. Once the bowl was in its proper shape, like a baby put it in that water, which was baby bowl. You can hear our reaction. We were literally just lying to watching them and stuff. But yeah, so she puts it in this bath of full moon blessed water, and immediately it's like a chemical reaction, and the bowl changes color. Once the metal hits the water, has Himalayan salt in it, so there's like a little bit of a chemistry thing that happens there, and you can see it literally changes color. And the fire is a special color too. I remember that from high school campus class. Don't ask me what it means, but it's beautiful. Okay, yeah, so the one in the middle, they are hand hammering the bowl. So this is like earlier in the process when first you just take all the metals, all the different kinds of metal, the different scraps, and then you melt them. And as they start to melt, you put it in the kiln, you take it out. You put it in the kiln, you take it out. And they are literally going around in this like very rhythmic, meditative, super dangerous, if you ask me, kind of way, hammering the bowl one by one in unison. But for them, it is like super ceremonious and a tradition as like a baby time. So here you can see these men go together for a long time, going one after the other to sort of like separate the metal and make it larger, and then also curve it so that it'll start to turn into that bowl shape. I just like was so enamored by the sound, synchronicity. Watching it. And then here, a little bit later in the process, sorry, I should have you see after he moves the bowl in the water, this is now inside the factory. This is the last step where they are using a hand to get the edge of the bowl. I can also remember. Okay. The next step, as you saw in that third video, is refinement. So you see all these like metal scraps in the corner. That is a mix of some of the metals that I was talking about before, the 6 or 7 that it's made up of. And it can be really, really hard to find and guarantee manufacturers that are actually still doing this because there really aren't that many left. There's also in the back some of the bowls that you could see in the middle of the refinement process. So this machine here is making the top flat and then also creating that, you see that like goldish line that they have towards the top. That's just one of the like personal touches of this factory. And the picture on the right is an example of what I was trying to show you before of how they like start to shape the bowl. So all of them hands like this is just in such insane labor. Hands-on work for everybody. Like one man is holding it still, the other one has a clamp to sort of like move the metal. I'm just mind blown that it's literally metal and they're treating it like it's clay. And then another one is like hammering it on the inside a bit to create that shape and that form. I did a pottery class once and that was incredibly difficult using clay. I could only imagine how hard this was. I did have a chance to hammer it a few times and those hammers are very heavy. So I did mention ritual is a huge part of it, and I wanted to give you a more up close image of the ritual component. So they sit on logs as stools, and the log on the left has a little, I guess it's like a bowl that they put the singing bowls into when they are doing the work. So you could see in the picture on the right, it's like the mini bowl on top of the log has the bright scalding red thing on top of that. So that's just, to like hold in the heat. And they use a combination of 3 different flours, and the things that you see on the floor that are very colorful are the dried paints that they like to use in Holi. So all of this is super thought out and ceremonious and a beautiful experience to witness. Yeah, you can see in the picture at the right, there's a bunch of us looking down, watching, and it was really cold that night too, so I was very impressed to see that, I mean, this guy is barefoot.
Hold on, because one, two, three, four.
So,
So these four ovens,
this is
they are
the
making
end of the
different size of the
process,
ball.
and oh, this
So
is
this
so
one is
interesting,
mostly in
serendipitously, a
the
friend
best
of
size.
mine that I met while we were
This
there
one is
texted me as
medium
I'm
size.
recording this.
And the next one is a little bigger
Um,
size, and the next one is
so I
a
say
bigger
the
size.
end for a few
So here,
reasons. This
altogether,
is
is
a image of
32
what the
pieces
bowls
of four
start to
ovens.
look
This is
like
one,
once
two,
they
three,
have
four.
dried off
So these
and
four
start to be
ovens, we are
polished.
making different size of
There
the
is a
ball.
little bit more of a
So
process
this
after
one is
this that
mostly in
involves
the best
the
size.
decorative component.
So this
So
one
you
is
can kind of tell better in
medium
this
size.
still image on the
And the
right
next one
how
is a
you
little
see,
bigger
like,
size, and the next one
some
is
of the
bigger
different
size.
coloration in the
So
bowls
here
that comes from them
altogether
being
is
hand hammered and
32
composed
pieces
of
of oven. This
different
is a
kinds of
one,
metal.
two, three, four.
I
So
also
this
just
four
wanted to show you
ovens
the
we are
that you
making
would glimpse of the
different
factory and
size of the
how
ball.
many metal scraps
So this
there
one
are.
is
They were
mostly in
everywhere.
the best size.
Yeah, it was
So
just like
this one is medium size.
mind blowing to
And
see
the next
and
one is a
so
little bigger size,
interesting.
and the next one is big. So here altogether is 32 pieces. Four
Yeah,
ovens.
he
This
was
is
talking
one,
about
two, three, four.
the
So this four ovens we are
and
making
how many people work
different
there.
size of the ball.
And then the photo in the middle
So
is just
this
a
one
fun
is
little
mostly
anecdote
in the best
because while
size.
I was there in
So this
Kathmandu
one is
Valley, we
medium
were
size.
filming a
And the next
documentary.
one is a little
Well,
bigger
I
size,
wasn't
and the next one
particularly
is bigger.
filming it, but I was with a group
So
who
here
was. The man on the
altogether
left
is
was the filmmaker.
32 pieces of
And the
four ovens.
documentary
This
is
is
all
one,
about
two, three,
indigenous
four.
cultures
So
around
this
the
four
world.
ovens we
And
are
so
making
we were
different
part
size
of
of
this
the ball.
segment featuring the
So this
Nawari
one is
people. And
mostly
the
in
person
the
that I
best
learned
size.
from, he was in
Four
this
ovens.
video
This
as
four
well.
ovens. This is one, two,
Santa
three,
on the
four.
right.
So this four
Um,
ovens we are making
yeah, he is
different
from the
size of the
Nawari
ball.
culture, which has
So this
been
one is
doing
mostly
singing
in
bowls
the best size.
for the
So
dawn
this
of
one
time.
is
Created,
medium
they
size.
probably are some
And the
that
next one is a little bit
have
bigger
the
size, and the next
closest
one
video
is
of him.
big.
I
So
showed you him
here
in the
altogether is
introduction from the
32
last
pieces of
course.
four. One, two, three, four. So
Sorry
this
about
four
that
ovens
spam
we are
call, of
making
course.
different size
Anyway,
of the
this
ball.
is just such a beautiful image
So
I
this
wanted
one
to
is
share with more
mostly
people
in the
because
best size.
Matteo proposed
So this
to
one is
Andrea, his
medium
girlfriend,
size.
now
And the next one
fiance,
is a little bigger
while we were
size,
at
and
the
the next one
factory,
is big.
while he was filming
So here
the
altogether is
video. So who doesn't love a
32
good
pieces of four
proposal
ovens. This is a
story?
one,
I
two,
just thought that
three,
was such a
four.
beautiful
So
moment.
this four ovens
That
we are
day also
making
was holy
different size
in
of the ball.
Kathmandu and
So
Nepal
this
and
one
in
is
India. So
mostly in
it
the
was a day
best size.
full of so
So
much
this one four
incredible,
ovens. This is a
so many
one, two,
incredible.
three, four.
So one more thing I wanted to share is that green Tara, if you are somewhat familiar with Buddhism, then you probably already know who this is. She is a goddess and she is a manifestation of all feminist aspects of enlightenment. So the story goes, as told to me from Santa, that Green Tara was a Nepali woman and she married a Tibetan king. And she moved to Tibet with singing bowls. But at the time, they weren't yet used for the musical medicinal properties that they're used for now. They were actually used for food. And the food that they served in them was usually fed to pregnant women because of all of these different minerals and all the different kinds of metals. It was believed that the food had very positive properties for the babies and the future babies to eat. So this is like the history according to the Nawari people about where these Himalayan bowls even come from. So, yeah, Tara is often credited with bringing them to Tibet, especially in Nepal. But of course, not everyone can agree. This is the version of the story that I was told, and I really wanted to share it with you because it was just such a special thing to experience. Namaste. Thank you for coming to part two. I will see you next time for part three, where we dive into tools and techniques for playing the bowls and some tips for taking care of them as well.